Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre on a day when the crisis in Indian cricket has deepened further, forcing the Indian Cricket Board to call an emergency meeting next week. Is the rot deeper than we all thought? I'm Nidhi Razdan. We'll get straight to the big story. Well, in huge developments that have taken place today, the Mumbai police have claimed that the BCCI president's son-in-law, Gurunath Meiyappan, has told them an ICC official had warned him about the company he keeps, presumably a reference to bookies. This warning was just before the IPL tournament began in April. According to the police, Meiyappan then told actor Vindu Dara Singh that he had been warned and that Vindu should be careful. This, say police, has been corroborated by the actor, who is also under arrest for his connection with bookies. The question is, did the BCCI know about this supposed warning to Gurunath? And if they did, why didn't they do anything? ICC sources have refused to confirm or deny whether Gurunath was indeed warned, saying it's possible that the anti-corruption officer gave the warning to the BCCI's anti-corruption unit, who in turn may have informally discussed it with Gurunath. The BCCI then may or may not have been in the know. Meanwhile, as the pressure builds, the BCCI has called an emergency meeting of the working committee on the 8th of June. Joining me now are my colleagues Miloni Bhatt from Mumbai and Rika Roy, who joins us from New Delhi. Rika, I'll come to you first. The big development in the last hour or so has been the announcement by the BCCI that it's going to have a working committee meeting next week. Is that the first step possibly to a vote on whether Mr. Srinivasan should continue as board president?
Well, Nidhi, the president of BCCI, N Srinivasan, has finally buckled under pressure and called this working committee meeting. This will essentially be to test the waters, to understand the mood of the board members. He will be, of course, asked some very, very uncomfortable questions, and he has to answer all of them in regard to Gurunath Meiyappan, because ever since the arrest of Gurunath Meiyappan, the BCCI president has not formally met the working committee. However, the working committee, which has 16 members, few of whom are permanent, few of whom come on a rotational basis, cannot move a motion to oust him. If they are not satisfied with Mr. Srinivasan's explanations about the events that have been in the last 15 days, then they can move a motion to have a special general meeting and to have a voting of the BCCI, and he has to be basically voted out. Remember, he is an elected president, so a formal voting procedure has to take place to have Srinivasan out of the board. But before that, the meeting on 8th, which is next Saturday, becomes very, very important, because it is essentially for N Srinivasan to gauge the mood of the board members. What I understand is if he sees that he has lost the confidence of the board, he doesn't have the confidence of the board members, then he might also resign. Then there will be no question of having a special general meeting. So in which case the meeting on 8th also becomes important, because that will essentially be a meeting for Srinivasan to test the waters.
All right, Rika, I'm going to come back to you for more on the other development in this story today, to which I'm going to Miloni now. Miloni, this revelation by the Mumbai police, where they claim that Gurunath Meiyappan, who is the board president's son-in-law, was apparently warned by the ICC just before the tournament began. Now, is there any independent corroboration of this? Have the police been able to speak to the ICC about this, or is this something that Gurunath is saying himself?
Nidhi, this is essentially part of phone conversation between Gurunath Meiyappan and Vindu Dara Singh. Now, this Mumbai police say that they know for a fact that this conversation happened, and they have confronted both Gurunath Meiyappan and Vindu Dara Singh about this. Both of them are in police custody since over a week here in Mumbai Crime Branch, and Mr. Gurunath apparently told the police that he did not probe the ICC official further, that this was a conversation, he was warned about this. The police don't even know whether this was a warning over the phone, whether it was a face-to-face warning, whether it was a warning over any other medium. We also specifically asked the police, and when sources were questioned on whether they are going to try and test the veracity of this claim, which has been made by Mr. Gurunath and also corroborated by Vindu Dara Singh, they say that they may, but they're not certain whether they're going to do it at this point in time. Essentially, Mumbai police's contention here, top sources telling us that this should be verified with the ICC or with the BCCI. They themselves have not made any independent, they have not led any independent verification of this claim.
All right. So, Rika, coming back to you then, we've heard Mr. Srinivasan saying that the BCCI had no idea about this ICC warning. ICC officials that we've spoken to have neither confirmed nor denied whether this warning was actually given. What are you hearing?
Well, Nidhi, I'm really hearing a lot of views. Some ICC officials are of the opinion, ex-ICC officials are of the opinion that Gurunath Meiyappan would not have been communicated by the ICC, but it should have gone through the board. But some of the officers, anti-corruption officers in the ICC and ex-anti-corruption officers tell me that it is not necessary for them to go through the board. If someone is found with dodgy links, that person can in fact be warned. It is not a binding on them to write to the board, to the respective cricket boards, unless there are hard evidences of corruption. And in this case, I can tell you that no letter was written to the IPL or the BCCI, but I cannot confirm, Nidhi, at this point whether any of the anti-corruption officers informally communicated anything to the IPL CEO or the IPL chairman about Gurunath Meiyappan's dodgy links.
All right, Rika and Miloni, I'll thank you very much at this point for joining us this evening with those updates. So lots of developments on that story in the last couple of hours. Joining me now on the phone line is Mr. Ehsan Mani, the former president of the ICC, of the International Cricket Council. Mr. Mani, what is the procedure exactly? How does this work? Do you really believe that the Indian Cricket Board would not have been in the know if Mr. Gurunath had got a warning on the company he was keeping?
I'd be surprised. If it was a player involved and the player gets warned, I can understand that. But for an ICC official at any level to inform someone involved with one of the IPL franchises and not inform the BCCI is surprising. But as you said earlier on in your program, BCCI have denied that they've had any intimation from the ICC. So I think one has to accept that on face value unless the ICC come up with further information.
Except, Mr. Mani, the ICC has also not been very forthcoming with any statement on its side, at least on the record. Is that part of the problem? Does the ICC need to be more forthcoming about these issues? Is it time that it also, as an organization, is more transparent on these issues?
Look, ICC has to tread a very careful line on this. This is, certainly as far as Mr. Srinivasan is concerned, as president of the board and his son-in-law, the ICC has to tread a very careful line because ultimately it is a matter for the BCCI. The matter of corruption is very much an ICC concern, so that has to be dealt with at a different level. And ICC has to make sure that it doesn't cross over lines and starts interfering in the domestic affairs of any cricket board. So I can understand why ICC is hesitant or reluctant to sort of add fuel to whatever's going on at the moment.
But Mr. Mani, do you believe that Mr. Srinivasan would not have been in the know if his son-in-law had been given a warning like this, in your view?
I would be very surprised if he didn't know. If his son-in-law was given a warning, then surely the ICC would have known the links and they would have certainly spoken to the president of BCCI in that case. And certainly if I had been president of ICC, I would have personally made sure and certain that the president of BCCI was aware that a family connection of his might be at some risk in whatever form. So I would be exceedingly surprised if in those circumstances the president of BCCI did not know.
In fact, Mr. Mani, just one last question. What some ICC officials seem to suggest to us was, and again, there have been different views, as Rika was saying, what some of them were seeming to suggest was that, maybe there was an informal communication between the anti-corruption units of the ICC and the BCCI, and then an informal chat with Mr. Gurunath warning him that you're being watched. But like you said, if it's something that involves someone as high profile as Mr. Gurunath, you're pretty certain that you believe that the board president would know, at least the board would know. It's not a small matter.
Well, no. We've got to be careful here. I don't know whether the board president would have known. What I'm saying is that if I had been in the ICC and running the ICC, I would have certainly made sure that the board president would have been aware, particularly in the sensitive nature of the person involved. I think it would have been only right to have spoken to the president of BCCI in view of his family connections. And I find it very surprising if it's any other case, frankly.
All right, Mr. Hassan Mani, thank you very much for joining us on Left, Right and Centre tonight. Meanwhile, we have been seeing a lot of criticism of India's cricketing greats for not speaking out on this controversy that's plaguing cricket, including the Indian captain MS Dhoni. But finally breaking his silence today on the scandal, Sachin Tendulkar has said that the development of the last 2 weeks was shocking and disappointing, and that the faith reposed by millions of fans in the game has to be justified.
It has always hurt me when the game of cricket is in the news for the wrong reasons. The developments in the last 2 weeks have been shocking and disappointing. As cricketers, we are always taught to go out, fight hard, give our very best and play the game in the true spirit. During this difficult phase, I join every cricketer, from the boys in the Maidans across the country to those who represent clubs, states and the country who trust the authorities to take sincere steps to get to the root of the issue. The faith reposed by the millions of fans should be justified, and we owe it to them to ensure that Indian cricket is all about pride and joy.
Well, those were Sachin Tendulkar's strong comments, and maybe now that Sachin has spoken out, we could see other players following suit. We've had a trickle as far as BCCI officials are concerned. Now joining us on the program tonight, we have Atul Vasan, former India cricketer, joining us this evening. Shishir Hatangadi, the former Mumbai cricket captain, joins us tonight from Ahmedabad. Also with us is Mr. Surinder Khanna, the former Indian wicketkeeper and opener, and Mr. V. Krishnaswamy is with us. We'll have more panelists joining us a little later in the program. To V. Krishnaswamy first. What's your take on this? Do you think it's possible that the Indian Cricket Board didn't know that Gurunath got a warning?
So there are two possible options. One, that the ICC informed Gurunath Meiyappan directly, in which case the entire premise on which that we've been functioning for the last 12 days, according to Mr. Srinivasan, that Gurunath Meiyappan is nothing but a cricket enthusiast. So the ICC cannot be communicating with a cricket enthusiast. It has to be either communicating with someone who's very important in one of the franchises. The second is, it is
Would
possible.
they do it with an individual?
Of course not. I mean, why should they do it with a cricket enthusiast? You are a cricket enthusiast, so am I. So now the second option is the ICC informed the BCCI, which in turn should have informed the franchise. Now, if the BCCI is saying it did not get any information, that means it went directly, or the BCCI is lying. Now, everything is possible. Right now, we have been hearing a whole lot of rumors. We've been hearing a whole lot of lies and bigger lies, and so so that is a mere continuation of that. But I would not be surprised if the ICC had, either through its own anti-corruption unit and informed the BCCI's anti-corruption unit, and they in turn would have been absolutely, it would have been mandatory for them to inform the BCCI or the IPL governing council, and not directly the person that they are suspecting. So I don't think you will always, you cannot be informing the alleged conspirator or the suspect. You have to inform someone who is higher up than that, which should only be the IPL governing council or the BCCI. So I certainly don't. I think information must have filtered in. This is too big for even the police to be kind of playing around with.